Hey, it's Cornfu. This week we are going to be using the Illustrator, Adobe Illustrator brush pattern tool. Not the brush pen tool, the brush pattern tool. The way it works is you take a shape that you create, we'll do that quickly, and you're going to have it be seamless on either end so that it can just flow continuously and be seamless. And I've used it to make chains like chain link, bicycle chain. That's what we're going to be making today. I've used it to make a rope pattern. It's awesome. It's a big time saver. It does have its limitations though. If you have, like, say you create a rope pattern and then you apply it to a spline that has hard angles, the corners are going to be kind of weird. Now the brush pattern palette actually has the ability to handle those corners in one of three ways. I think you can merge, you can have it blend together. It's a little janky looking unless your pattern that you're creating is kind of square, then it works on square. Since I'm using a circular type pattern, like a bicycle chain, I'm going to apply it to a nice sweep. As long as your corners are not dramatic, it'll be fine. And again, it's a big time saver. It's a lot of fun. The graphic that I'm doing today is based on the notorious PV Kings. So the PV Kings, who are they, you ask? They were actually a bunch of little middle schoolers that would take bikes. So say you ran into Wawa to grab yourself a shorty, the sandwich, and then a Mountain Dew, pay for it, you come out, your bike's gone. Yep, you've been victimized by the PV Kings. I don't think they actually own their own bikes. So if you left the bike out in your yard, you would come out and it would be gone. Harmless, but annoying. I think they're defunct now. Every time I hear about it, I laugh. I laugh because I wasn't victimized, but I still think it's kind of funny. So here's to you, PV Kings. Let's jump in and get designing on this thing. It'll be a lot of fun. Okay, here we go. I have a sketch of the background as my reference. I'm going to put down 2 circles because I need to make the rounded outer part of the chain link for this bicycle chain. The 2 little teeny circles in the middle, those are pins. Okay, and then I'm drawing a square because I have to marry these 2 shapes together. And around the edges, that's going to be my main piece that I just created. Okay, and now I am making the internal link. Because the bicycle chain is made up of the front facing piece, of the outer pieces, and then the inside piece that marries up to the pin. Okay, now I'm going to duplicate that, merge it together. That's my piece. And I have to round out the angular pieces just to give it that organic feel of a bicycle chain. Okay, we're almost finished the link. Once I have this link finished, and it's symmetrical and identical on either end so that it can marry up without any problems. Once I do that, I'm going to actually drag it into the brush palette. That's it. The little icon has like little brushes on it. If you double click on that, open that up. Once this shape is complete, you can drag that sucker in there, drop it in, and then you will be presented a dialog pop-up box that gives you some options. Okay, I'm outlining it, getting my basic shape. Okay. The new brush, you can do a scatter brush, art brush, pattern brush. I'm going to go with the pattern brush. Once you drop that in, it's going to give you options of how the corners look. So again, I'm doing a circular type thing. I draw a circle. I'm going to apply that brush to it. I actually have to turn off the internal fill. And there you see there's a nice looking chain link. Apply it to a circle. Now if I was to apply this to a square or whatever, the corners would be really crazy looking. They wouldn't be really seamless. If I have a square pattern that I'm repeating, then it's okay. That's not a problem. But since it's circular, it would be a problem. You have options to blend it, mash it together. Sometimes that works. It looks kind of janky. Okay, now I'm making a sprocket. So this is for the PV Kings. So, since they're stealing bikes, I want all the items in this to be bike related. So I'm working on the sprocket. I use the star tool to actually build the teeth. And I do a series of overlaying type of shapes and knocking them through. Once I have it built how I like, I'm going to outline the stroke and then release the compound path, and then I can pull out the pieces that I need. I spent a lot of time on this, and as I'm working on it, I realized, do I really want it to be like a sprocket? Because what I really want is a PV King member, like what I think a member would look like, and then have like the little graffiti crown on his head. That's kind of what I was going for. And as I'm working through the sprocket, I realized this thing is too clean and crisp. It doesn't look like graffiti at all. It's not graffiti, it's actual sprocket. and therefore I don't think it's going to really work well as a crown. So I sit and screw around with this thing for a few minutes, and then I realize, you know what? Let's make it more organic. And here we go. I use the Blob brush, Shift B. I paint out kind of a real quick graffiti style sprocket that's now going to function as like a little crown on top of the PV King. I get that, I clean it up a little bit, put it in there, and you'll see I turn layers on and off. That's so I can see if everything's lining up right, if the balance is right. And now the easy fun part is drawing out lines over top of the sketch that I already have. Okay, this stuff's always fun. And I've talked about it before, the width tool. I love that thing because in the past I would make a really thick line, I would outline the stroke, and then I would go back and have to make the corners look pointy. I didn't realize the width tool did that for you. So it gives a really nice organic kind of ink feel. So I spent a little bit of time here building out the shapes of this notorious gang member. Playing around with, you know, the Bezier curves to get it to flow right. Another thing you can do, and I've done this in the past as well, is you can actually take a pencil drawing and ink it out for reals, and then bring it into Illustrator and use the image trace tool to build it out. But I want something a lot smoother and more refined. Okay, almost finished the shoelaces here. I feel like my chair is going to break. That would be, I would leave that in the video if that happened. Be epic. Okay, so now I'm pretty happy with the balance of it. So now I'm going to go tweak some of the lines a little bit. Going back in, adding a little bit more detail. I stick pretty close to the sketch, but not always. Okay, now I'm back to using the width tool, which is Shift W. And this is the part I actually really enjoy. This is when it starts to come together. Okay, getting close. Once I have all the, what I call the ink lines, the black solid outlines, once I have that complete, I am going to select them all. I'm going to expand the stroke, and that actually makes it go from a stroke with adjustable line weights that you can control that are non-destructive to actually making it destructive. And by destructive, I mean you can't go back and change the stroke of it because you've actually outlined it. So it goes from a stroke to a shape. So here it's a shape. I'm going in, I'm tweaking it, I'm getting rid of some extra points, and I decide, you know what? I don't really want you to be able to see the person's eyes. I want it to be a little bit more mysterious. Just kind of shaping out the hat a little bit to make it a little bit more organic. Now, I changed the color of the the chain, so that I can visually see what I want to delete and what I want to keep. Okay, now there, I just released the compound path. That's Shift Option Command 8. And then I'm going to go and delete the extra pieces. So now the challenge is I have some overlapping pieces. I have the chain on the front, I have the guy in the back, and I want that to be a seamless type thing. I don't want it to be, you know, layered and kind of sloppy looking. So I delete out the pieces of the chain that I don't need. I use the eraser tool there. I select the whole chain, erase it out. And now I'm actually building the pieces to the bottom right that are close to the chain. And again, I periodically will stop and clean up some of the stuff, because when I outline things, sometimes there's like these little internal bits of pieces that get left in there. Not the end of the world, but it actually increases your file size because it's adding points. So I get rid of that. I add in some spray paint runs, some drips to make it look more graffiti-like. And okay, now that I have all my pieces separated out, when I release the compound path, I can then go and select each of those pieces. We've talked about this before. They're like little islands, and I can go and color those. And then I'll add in shading and stuff like that. Okay, now here was the dilemma I was talking about. I've got this chain, and I've got the guy's hoodie, and it's kind of overlapping, and it looks okay, I guess. But what I want to do is I want to do a little bit of an offset knockout so that the hoodie and the chain are not touching. So what I'll do is I'll select the chain, I'll offset it by 6 to 10 pixels, so it gives me a little buffer, and then I'll take that piece that I offset and I'll push it or knock it through the shape of the hoodie. And then that gives me a nice little outline. There's a lot of things you could do. I probably could have taken the chain and put an outside white stroke on it. And that would have done the same thing. But now I have pieces that are close, but not overlapping. Okay, now I add in some of the shading of the face, just to give it some depth. And again, this is the stuff I enjoy. This part of it, this can take hours. I actually rolled through this one pretty quickly, but you can spend a lot of time on this. And for something cartoony like this, you don't want a ton of detail. You want just enough to tell the story, but you don't want a ton of overly nuanced type stuff. Now I'm adding in the highlights. My light source is upper left side, coming down a little bit. And I don't have any photo references, obviously, so I couldn't get any PB Kings to volunteer for me. Because now they're not in middle school now. I think they all have jobs or they're in jail, one of the two. Okay, so I'm adding this a little bit of darker shading. Now for my color selection, I just was guessing and eyeballing. And sometimes I'll go and I'll use Adobe's color themes, and they're cool. So you can type anywhere, like you can type in Scooby-Doo in the color theme and you'll get Scooby-Doo colors. It's super cool. For this though, I decided just to kind of eyeball the colors and just guess. And the other thing too is sometimes I'll go and I'll take a photo of a poster, like a retro poster, and use Adobe Capture. And I can create color palettes that way. It's super awesome. But this was just a quick, hey, let's get this done. Man, it's almost Thanksgiving. I don't have time to be doing all these videos. Okay. Highlights, getting there. We're getting real close to finish this up. I mean, are these highlights accurate? Not really, but it looks cool. I guess this was kind of misleading. Oh, I'm going to show you how to use the pattern brush tool. And then I end up doing a full-on everything else. Okay. I'm going to add in the name of the group. Okay, and this is the finished product here. PB Kings, write it like you stole it. And because you did. All right, I hope you guys enjoyed this. This sucker was a lot of fun. Yeah, I hope I'm not encouraging delinquent behavior. But anyway, I hope you enjoyed this. If you have any questions about this, please, in the comments, make some suggestions, ask me your questions. I'll try to answer them as quickly as possible. If you have any questions about the pattern brush tool, or if you want to see me do something a little bit more in depth, I can go ahead and do that. We'll do chains and ropes and stuff like that, or something that you have in mind. If you're curious and want to know, I'll do my best to make a tutorial that's more along with that. So again, thank you for watching. If you're not subscribed, please subscribe. Please like or dislike, whatever. Respond, do something. But thank you. I'll see you next week. Shut up. Hey, it's Cornfu. That was so down-tempo. Hey, it's Cornfu. PV Kings. Okay, this week we're going to be using